Okay, so are you ready for this? We're going deep today.
Always up for a challenge.
Yeah, so we got this blog post from a listener.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and the title is Commander Vrillon, the Takedown.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, this thing is packed with some pretty wild stuff.
Sounds intriguing.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about alien races and government conspiracies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and even a little bit of like supernatural stuff.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm hooked already.
So let's just dive in and see what we can make sense of.
Let's do it.
So the main claim of this post is basically that humanity has been secretly controlled
Okay.
by a reptilian race for millennia.
Like lizard people.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But not just any reptilians, though.
Oh.
These are supposed to be like these highly advanced beings
Okay.
from the Draco star system.
I've heard of that. Is that like a real star system?
Yeah, it is. It's a constellation in the northern sky.
Interesting. So these reptilian overlords, have you come across this idea before?
Oh, yeah. It's a pretty common theme in certain conspiracy theories.
I can see how that would appeal to some people.
Yeah, definitely.
This idea of hidden powers controlling the world.
Right, exactly.
So what's the story with this Commander Vrillon? What role do they play in all of this?
Right. So Commander Vrillon is like the central figure in this whole thing.
Okay.
And Vrillon claims to be a member of what's called the Ashtar Galactic Command.
Ashtar Galactic Command. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's this concept that's been around since like the mid-20th century.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What are they all about?
Well, they're often depicted as being like benevolent extraterrestrials who are here to kind of like guide humanity through like a period of spiritual transformation.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But have we ever actually seen these Ashtar folks? Any real proofs they exist?
Not really, no.
Oh.
There's no concrete evidence.
So it's all based on belief then?
Pretty much, yeah.
So what's Vrillon's message? Why are they reaching out to humanity?
So Vrillon says that most humans are totally unaware of the true vastness of existence.
What does that even mean?
Well, they're saying that there are like countless civilizations
Okay.
and different races out there like these reptilians,
Yeah.
and they claim that these reptilians,
Yeah.
they believe that they are the rightful owners of Earth.
What? Seriously?
Yeah. And that they've been manipulating humanity for hundreds of thousands of years.
How would they even do that? Manipulate us, I mean.
Well, according to the blog post,
Mhm.
they're doing it through genetically modified clones.
Genetically modified clones.
Yeah. And get this, they're strategically placed,
Hmm.
like among the elite and powerful.
Wow, that's a pretty out there claim.
It is, yeah.
So these reptilians have been pulling the strings from behind the scenes all along.
That's what the blog post claims, yeah.
And what about Commander Vrillon? What do they want us to do about all this?
Right. Well, that's where things get even weirder.
Weirder. How so?
Vrillon says that the reptilians' control is actually weakening. Yeah. Apparently, they're blocked from directly interfering with Earth right now.
Blocked. By who?
That's not really clear. The post doesn't give specifics.
Okay. So if these reptilians are so powerful, how could they be blocked?
That's a good question.
And why now? Why are they being blocked now?
Well, the post says it's because of these rising vibrational currents surrounding Earth.
Vibrational currents, what are those?
Yeah, it's not really explained in any detail.
Sounds kind of new agey.
It does, yeah. But apparently these currents are like interfering with a reptilian's ability to shapeshift.
Shapeshift. Wait a minute. Are we talking about actual physical lizard people?
That's what the post seems to be suggesting, yeah.
Okay, so we've got shape-shifting reptilians blocked by vibrational currents from controlling humanity.
Yep, pretty much.
You said it was wild, and you weren't kidding.
Right.
I'm almost afraid to ask, but what happens next?
Well, we'll have to pick up there in the next
It's okay. I'm definitely tuning in for that.
Awesome. I'll see you then.
It's almost like it's like this post was written as a movie script or something.
I know, right.
It's like Star Wars meets conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Total space opera vibes.
Totally.
It really makes you wonder about the person who wrote it, you know?
Yeah, what were they thinking?
Like, what's their goal here?
Right, exactly.
So let's look back at the post again.
Okay.
It says it's written by someone named Chelea Wilder.
Chelea Wilder?
Yeah.
I don't recognize that name.
Me neither. And it's published on this website called Era of Light.
Era of Light. Anything familiar about that?
I mean, it sounds kind of spiritual, new agey, but I don't know anything specific.
Yeah, same here. So we don't really know much about the source of this information.
Right, which makes it even more important to be skeptical.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't just take everything at face value.
No, we got to ask questions.
Like, what's the evidence?
Right. Is there anything to back up these claims.
And is it consistent with what we know about the world, you know?
Exactly. So let's go back to the blog post for a minute.
Sure.
This whole thing about the reptilians using clones to control us.
The genetically modified clones?
Yeah, that one. Is there actually any proof of that?
Well, the post itself doesn't really offer any.
Really?
No. It's just presented as fact, like, hey, this is happening, believe it.
But if it were real, you'd think there'd be some kind of evidence.
Exactly, like leaked documents or scientific studies or something.
Right, or maybe even some people coming forward saying they've seen it.
Whistleblowers, yeah.
But there's nothing like that.
Not that I've seen, and that's a big red flag for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence, you know?
Totally. Okay, so what about the vibrational currents? Anything to that?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky.
How so?
Vibrational currents isn't a term that scientists use.
Oh, really?
Nope. It's more of a new age spiritual kind of idea.
Oh, I see.
It's about these like subtle energies that can supposedly affect our consciousness and even physical reality.
Okay, so not exactly scientific then.
Not in the way we usually think of science, no.
But didn't you say that energy and frequency are real scientific concepts?
Oh, absolutely.
So how is that different from the vibrational currents thing?
It's about how they're being used. In science, energy is about the ability to do work, and frequency is like how often something happens.
Okay, so like light waves have a certain frequency.
Exactly. And sound waves, and even like the vibrations of atoms.
But this blog post is talking about something else, right?
Right. It's using vibrational currents in a more mystical way.
Like to explain how the reptilians are being blocked.
And how their shape-shifting is being disrupted.
So they're kind of mixing scientific language with something that's not really scientific.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to give it a veneer of scientific legitimacy.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got the clones, the vibrational currents, and then there's this whole divine order thing.
Right, the cosmic battle between good and evil.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, the idea of a divine order has been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It pops up in a lot of different religions and philosophies.
Real.
It's this idea that there's a larger plan at work, that everything happens for a reason,
I see.
and that ultimately good will triumph over evil.
So Vrillon is tapping into that, with the reptilians being the bad guys.
Exactly. It's a powerful narrative, and it can be very comforting for some people.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it also raises some tough questions.
Like what?
Well, if everything is predetermined by this divine order, what does that mean for our free will?
That's a good point.
And who gets to decide what this order is anyway?
Right, whose version of good and evil are we talking about?
Exactly. So it's something to think about carefully.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've looked at the claims about the clones, the vibrational currents, and the divine order.
And none of them really hold up under scrutiny.
No, not really. But even if we don't buy into those specific claims...
There's still the bigger question of why people believe in conspiracy theories in the first place.
Right, what makes them so appealing to some people?
That's a really important question.
Yeah, because it's not just about a lack of information, right?
No, it's much more complex than that.
So what are some of the factors that might contribute to this kind of thinking?
Well, one factor is the need for certainty and control.
Okay, how so?
Well, the world can feel pretty chaotic and unpredictable sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And conspiracy theories offer a way to simplify things. They
Right.
provide easy answers and clear enemies to blame.
So instead of dealing with the complexity of real life,
You have this neat and tidy explanation for everything.
it's like, oh, it's all the reptilians' fault.
Exactly. It's much easier to process than trying to understand all the nuances of global politics and economics and all that.
Right, it makes you feel like you're in the know, like you have this secret knowledge that other people don't.
And that can be very empowering, especially if you feel like you don't have much control over your own life.
Okay, so there's that need for control, and what else?
Well, another factor is the need for belonging.
A longing.
Yeah. Conspiracy theories often create these tight-knit communities.
Oh, like online forums and groups.
Exactly. And for people who feel isolated or marginalized, those communities can provide a sense of connection and purpose.
So it's not just about the information itself.
It's about the social aspect, the feeling of being part of something bigger.
Right, like you're in on the secret, you're fighting the good fight.
And that can be very appealing, especially if you feel like you don't fit in elsewhere.
Okay, so we've got control, belonging, and what else?
Well, then there's fear and anxiety.
Fear.
A lot of conspiracy theories play into our deepest fears.
Right.
Fear of the unknown, fear of being controlled, fear of losing our freedom.
Yeah, and the reptilian overlord theory definitely plays into that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very fear-inducing idea.
Right, like these powerful hidden forces are manipulating everything.
And when we're afraid, we're more likely to accept information that confirms our fears.
Even if it's not true.
Exactly. Our judgment gets clouded.
Okay, so it's a combination of these psychological and social factors.
That makes people more susceptible to believing in conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's starting to make more sense now.
But we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. We need to talk about the consequences of these beliefs,
Okay, like what kind of consequences?
both for individuals and for society as a whole.
Right, because it's not just harmless fun, is it?
Not always. It can have some serious implications.
Okay, so let's dive into that in the next part.
Sounds good to me. So we've been talking about this Commander Vrillon and this idea of reptilian overlords.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild theory.
Definitely. But, it's not just about whether it's true or not.
Right, it's about the impact of these beliefs.
Exactly. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so what kind of impact can believing in these kinds of theories have on people?
Well, for one thing, it can make people really afraid.
Afraid, like scared of the reptilians?
Well, yeah, maybe. But it's more than that. It's
Okay.
about a general sense of fear and anxiety about the world.
Like feeling like you're not in control.
Exactly. And if you think that there are these powerful hidden forces controlling everything,
Yeah.
it can make it hard to trust anyone or anything.
So it affects your relationships with other people?
Oh, absolutely. It can lead to a lot of mistrust and suspicion.
I can see that.
And, sometimes these beliefs can even tear families apart.
Wow, that's serious.
It is. And then there's the impact on society as a whole.
Right, we were talking about that.
When enough people believe in conspiracy theories, it can really undermine trust in institutions.
Like the government and the media.
Exactly. And that can make it hard to address real problems.
Because no one believes anything anymore.
Right. And in some cases, it can even lead to violence.
We've seen that happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a real concern.
So what can we do about it? How do we stop the spread of misinformation?
Well, I think education is a big part of it.
Okay, like teaching people how to think critically
Exactly. Helping them develop the skills to evaluate information.
so they can spot fake news and conspiracy theories,
Right. And also just encouraging people to be curious and ask questions.
not just accepting everything they read online.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to create spaces for open and respectful dialogue.
Like where people can have different opinions without attacking each other.
Right, because shutting down conversation just makes things worse.
Yeah, pushes people further into their own echo chamber.
Exactly. So it's about finding ways to connect with people who think differently.
And maybe even change their minds.
Well, maybe. But even if you don't change their minds, at least you're having a conversation.
Right, and that's a start.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of reptilian overlords and vibrational currents,
I think the big takeaway here is to be critical thinkers.
absolutely. Question everything, look for evidence, and don't be afraid to change your mind.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, keep those brains buzzing.